Hey everybody, welcome to chapter number 2. This is still week number 1 of public speaking. I'm Mr. Howard, and today I want to focus in on two sections within the chapter, two major concepts. We're going to be talking about delivery style, and we're also going to be talking about organizational strategy for your speeches. So let's start off by talking about delivery style. When people give speeches, when they deliver their speeches, there's a number of different ways they can do it. Our speeches in this class are going to look different from, the president giving a speech on a teleprompter, or someone else on TV, or maybe on YouTube that you've seen. We're looking for a specific style here. The style we're looking for is called extemporaneous. The definition of extemporaneous for me is a carefully prepared and rehearsed speech that is delivered from a brief set of notes. I'd like for you to imagine a scale with extremes on both sides and a point right in the middle. And that's like the scale of the delivery styles. On one extreme end, you have memorization, someone who memorizes every single word of their speech. Often they sound like a robot because they're just kind of trying to recite every single word. And then on the extreme other end, you have someone who has not memorized every single word, has in fact memorized nothing, and instead is reading every single word off of a transcript. This person often also sounds exactly as robotic as the memorizer, because when you read something, unless you're a really skilled reader, like narrating audiobooks or something, you are just going to lose some affect. Your voice is going to flatten out, whether you're memorizing or reading. What we're shooting for then is not either extreme, but the space in the middle, which is called extemporaneous delivery. It's not memorized, it's carefully prepared. And so you've gone through it a bunch of times. You are very familiar with the subject matter, but you don't need to be so familiar with it that you've memorized it. But it is important that it is prepared, because if it's not carefully prepared at all, then you're going to be leaning back toward the reading side. So when you're giving your speech, you won't be allowed to read off of your outline or off of like a transcript. And I also don't want you to memorize your speech, which is why it's important that you'll be using note cards when you deliver your speech. The note card shows me that you've not memorized it. You will be referring to the information on the note card. But it also shows me that you are not reading word for word, because there's not enough room on those note cards to fit the entire transcript of your speech on it. So that's why I associate the use of note cards with extemporaneous delivery. It represents that middle ground between not memorizing every word, not reading every word, but instead delivering the carefully prepared and rehearsed speech from a brief set of notes, which is what we call extemporaneous delivery. All right. So that's a little bit about extemporaneousness. The next section that I want to talk about is organization. Every speech needs to be organized in roughly the same way. This is true whether it's an self-introduction speech, a demonstration speech, informative speech. Every speech needs to have a beginning, middle, and end. And the beginning is called the introduction, the middle is called the body, and the end is called the conclusion. The old saying is, you want to tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you want to tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. And that's exactly what you need to do in these speeches. In the introduction, you want to preview all three of your main points. Generally, you're going to have 3 main points. And then in the body, you want to go through those 3 main points in detail. And then in the conclusion, you want to restate those 3 main points. Repetition is the key to learning, so you want to say those things 3 times to try to get them stuck in your audience's head. I found students have tons of resistance to this, and so that's why I'm emphasizing it. It sounds a little weird, like it feels weird to state all 3 things in the introduction and then immediately go back to point number 1 and state it again and talk about it, and point number 2 and talk about it, point number 3 and talk about it. Because you're like, well, why did I say them all in the introduction if I'm just going to turn around and immediately say them in the body? So let me reemphasize, that is what you must do. You have to say all 3 points in the intro and then go back to the beginning and talk about point number 1 in detail. The temptation is people say, hey, this is my speech. Today I'm going to be talking about 3 main points. My first main point is blank, and then instead of previewing all the main points, they just say the first point and jump right into the body. And then your audience is sitting there wondering, well, wait a minute, I want to be able to listen for all 3 points. You didn't preview all 3 points. You just said, you just mentioned them, and then you jumped right into the first point without telling me what the second and third one are as well. So don't forget that. Preview all 3 points in the introduction, and then the introduction is over. Then you can go through the 3 points in the order that you previewed them in greater detail. Then when you finish all 3 of them, you'll go back, and then starting with the first one, second one, and third one, you'll recap those 3 points again. So once again, the basic speech organization is tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Preview all 3 of those main points in the introduction, and then you can be brief in the introduction, just preview them. Tell us explicitly what they are, and then in the body go into as much detail as you want, as much detail as you have prepared on each of those 3 points. And in the conclusion, recap them really briefly and tie it up with a nice bow there at the end. Now, as we go throughout the semester, I am going to give you some more detail on this. There are more things that need to be done in the introduction besides simply previewing the 3 main points, and this is true for the later speeches. And then in the body, there's some more instructions about the way in which you want to flesh out these things using subpoints, and in the conclusion as well. But for now, the most important thing is that you program into your head that the speech has these 3 chunks, and how important the full explicit preview is, and the full explicit conclusion of the 3 main points are, in addition to the well-developed and detailed body. Okay, to recap this video, we've talked about delivery style. I've emphasized the need for extemporaneous delivery, which is not memory, it's not transcript, it's a carefully prepared speech delivered from a brief set of notes, usually in the form of note cards. And then secondly, I've talked about the organization of a speech with a beginning, middle, and end, introduction, body, and conclusion. That is all for now. I hope that you enjoy chapter number 2, and I'll see you again soon.